What is the pettiest reason you can't date someone? I literally rethought about my relationship with my ex when we went to the zoo. I paid for everything, tickets, parking, food, gift shop, etc., which all wasn't cheap, and he had the nerve to say our trip to the zoo was boring. If their Instagram is nothing but selfies, especially if they're striking the same pose in every shot. I had a match like that and it honestly creeped me out. Or the same facial expression in every pic. That creeps me out big time. I had a guy break up with me in high school because God told him to. I was like, okay, guess I can't argue with that one. Wasn't my pettiness, but a girl I went on a few dates with wouldn't date me because she wanted to be the artistic one in the relationship and she was worried that me being a musician would spoil that for her. She talks to people like they're 100 meters away from her. She insisted on hanging out at home. She lived with like 6 people, and they always had friends over. I felt like a boyfriend extra on Friends or Seinfeld. She had the same first name and last name as my grandpa. Because she texted like this. PPPP. I did internet dating for a while before I met my husband, and I have to say, the fact that he wrote incomplete sentences with near-perfect spelling and grammar was a real turn-on. She had the feminine version of my name and that's just too cutesy. Pure woman slappy or pure man slappy. She had the same name as my mom. His last name was Pfister. Mr. Pfister can't. I can't date anyone with lip injections. It felt super unnatural kissing her. Like kissing a baboon with rigor mortis. She ate pizza with her hands. No, not like you think. She would scoop up the toppings in a messy pile and like an animal, claw them up and eat them, then rip the bread and eat it. We were at a fancy Italian place and I got horrified. Did she walk round in a little circle before sitting down? My boss's daughter's ex-BF broke up with her because they had a Dyson and he said he wouldn't be able to keep up with her extravagant lifestyle. This is the most George Costanza thing I've ever heard. I can't do it, Jerry. Today it's a Dyson, but who know what it could be tomorrow. Trips to Monaco. Rolls Royces. I can't do it, Jerry. They are aspiring to be a social media influencer. They asked for petty reasons, not legit ones. He ate with closed fists around his utensils like a toddler and his face right up to his food like someone was going to steal it. She said I was too religious, meanwhile she was studying theology at a Christian college. I am not religious. She had a large tattoo of a half-zombie girl on her back. When doing her from behind it'd feel like the tattoo's eyes were on me the whole time and it gave me the creeps. It's one of the very few moments where I felt like I needed to make up an excuse to peace out. It was hard AF actively trying not to lose my erection when that happened, so no regrets about weaseling my way out. Her favorite song was The Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. I instantly noped out of an otherwise fine blind date when she ordered apple juice, off menu, at a fancy restaurant. 19-year-old me only knew apple juice as a toddler's drink, and I just couldn't get past it. I'm no longer that petty, but I did make the mistake of mentioning this to my wife once, many years ago, and she now makes a habit of ordering apple juice whenever we're at a fancy restaurant, just to see if squirm. Your wife is great. Loud person. No, I hate it. I actually went on a Tinder date last night, outdoor seating, everyone speaking quietly, or regular volume. She was basically yelling. She was so loud I couldn't wait for it to be over. Her sister was jealous of the relationship. I probably wouldn't class that as petty. You removed yourself from a potentially toxic situation. If they're super into Disney stuff, it creeps me out for some reason. When I was on dating apps, it was a hard pass if a guy was really into fishing or golfing. In my area, all guys in dating apps are fishing guys. All of them. Taking a long time to reply message but having read the message, and replying with one word. I don't think that person is dating you. If you don't like music. Like what in your life made you dislike the best gift on this great green rock we inhabit? What do you do while driving in traffic? I gotta say, I love music, but I also love having long hours without any music. My wife sort of gets on my nerves sometimes in our current work-from-home regime, because she's always tuned into something on Spotify or YT. When I need to genuinely think, I can't have music, and I need to think quite a lot. Back around 2005 I was talking to this guy at work and thinking how funny and sweet he was. As we were chatting, he was pulling his lunch out of a bag, it was McDonald's, and he had all these fries, a ginormous amount of fries, and I thought, ugh, I could never date a guy who ate that kind of food. We've been together since 2008 and got married in 2020. He wore tighty-whitey style underwear. Couldn't shake the image of a little boy who pulls his pants down to his ankles to pee. Eating their peas one at a time. People that like to debate too much. I'm all for having your own opinion, but when someone thinks they have to be the devil's advocate constantly, no thanks. They pronounce the word espresso when they mean espresso, or especially instead of especially. Her voice. She sang beautifully, but her voice when speaking was super gravelly. It was like she went out of her way to speak in the laziest way possible. I don't even know how to describe it, you'd have to hear it. I told a friend at work about it and they were like, you're crazy. I played a video where she was speaking, and the friend was immediately like, never mind, that's awful. I mean, I broke up with her for many reasons including massive levels of toxicity, but the voice initially was like, not okay. I thought I could deal with it, but when all the other stuff came to light, I really started to resent it. Bases their personality on their profession or something similar. I was with a girl who worked as a chef and couldn't cook a Hot Pocket around her without her deep diving into how to make the Hot Pocket a 5-star meal. I take note when people don't ask you questions about yourself. I always check up on people, how are you / how was your weekend, etc., and it kinda hurts to notice someone never asks the same about you. Not talking about a one-off, but if it's every conversation, not interested. Also, total deal breaker if they don't like cats, especially if they say they hate them without valid reason. Wouldn't say. That's petty though. I was raised as a fairly sheltered white kid in a very white American suburb. When I was around 20 I went on an OkCupid date with a guy named Manuel, and although I had several valid reasons for not pursuing a third date, I'm ashamed to say that I distinctly recall feeling weird about the prospect of getting into a relationship with a guy named Manuel because it felt weird for me to pronounce his name. Yes, I was that sheltered. At most 15 years later, after having lived the past 8 years of my life in a South Asian country, and 5 years into a committed relationship with a man from this country whose name is as far from white/Western culture as it gets, I cringe so hard at the thought process I had at that time. I've had multiple women say they won't date me cause I'm a Pisces. Something is fishy about this behavior. They didn't like pizza. Not like they couldn't have pizza for a dietary reason, but could have as much as they wanted, just didn't like it. Still upsets me to this day. He was a coward. Couldn't walk through a dark room at night, couldn't watch a horror movie with ghosts or gore in it, literally sat up in bed screaming like he was dying several times because I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night and he thought I was a ghost when I was getting back into bed. Honestly, not knowing the difference between your and your gets me drier than the Sahara, I'm sorry. My sister-in-law took her BF to a concert he didn't want to go to for his birthday. Mary J. Blige and the like. They have cultural differences, so despite her 30-year career, he has never heard of, let alone I listened to a Mary J. Blige song in his life. I believe Rihanna and some other R&B artists were also featured. Mind you, this is largely for women. So she took him to a concert that is largely for women on his birthday. Just want to summarize here. He enjoyed himself. He loved it. He was singing along with songs that were easier to learn/recite on the first time in. She hated that he enjoyed himself. She thought it weird that he enjoyed songs that are for women. Mind you, she took him there for his birthday, to this concert. So she took him to a concert that is largely for women on his birthday, and she did not expect nor did she want him to enjoy it. Just want to summarize here. She is breaking up with him. I couldn't be more mystified. Ended things with a guy over various other reasons, but the most annoying was how many times he told me that he'd leave me for Miranda Lambert in a heartbeat. Which okay, I get it, some people have a list of celebrities they'd leave there so over, mostly as a joke. But this was Ike every day, just randomly said, not related to the conversations we were having at the time, and he meant it. He made sure I understood that if for some god-forsaken reason Miranda Lambert walked in through the front door, I was gone. Only went on one date, but he named his cat Creamy, and the way he said it grossed me out. She wouldn't clear the excess time off the microwave display. My grandparents were very Southern. When I was a kid, I spent the night at their house and heard them wrestling. I heard my grandpa say my grandma's name, Sarah, but with his accent he said, "Oh, Sarah." I met a girl named Sarah who was also Southern. When she introduced herself as Sarah, I had to know about. It just gave me the heebie-jeebies. She didn't like museums. Inability to form a coherent sentence in text. Such a for the. This thread is basically plot summaries from Seinfeld. This was my first thought too. LOL, she smelled like soup. He wore fake glasses and didn't like vegetables. Fake glasses? Actually pretty popular back when I was in college, depending on how hipster your area is. Some people just think they look better with glasses with their face shape. A lot of the time they're right, honestly. It's still a bit weird. I almost broke up with a girl when she was trying to be seductive and yanked my book out of my hand and closed it, losing my spot. When they text with no vowels, why though? Live, laugh, love style home decor. She did that thing with her voice where every sentence she said ended with a question mark. Follow up, since so many people have asked, she was not Australian. She's American. Weird ears. I've also quit a therapist over this. I'm not single anymore, but I was told I was petty for breaking up with a guy because he had a terrible face. It was haunting. Horrifying. Like he was simultaneously orgasming and having his DK chopped off. My wife once told me she couldn't be with someone who wasn't around the same level of intelligence as she. I have no idea how I'm going to keep it a secret that I'm a effing idiot the rest of our lives. Eyes too far apart. All I could think about was Sid from LCEH. If they have the same name as either of my brothers or my dad, LOL, no. Having dated two, I now have a no nurses rule. Minions. Really hit it off and couldn't look past the love of Minions. Can't stand them. Didn't let me drink my beer until she got a picture of everything the waitress had brought out. I showed a woman the Green Mile and she laughed during Dell's horrific execution. I'd never believed in getting the ick until that moment. She said I drove slow on our date. She likes men that live dangerously. It snowed heavily while we were at a fancy dinner. Was in my father's car because I had just gotten back from work. She called me a week later. I said I need a woman that is more down to earth. White spittle gathering at the edge of the mouth. I can forgive or overlook a lot of things, but that's an instant turn off. I didn't like the way she ate a grilled cheese sandwich. There were more reasons, but this was the deal breaker. Friends with voices that annoy me. I dated a woman who would always write everything using text abbreviations, e.g. I want to be with you tonight BB. Texts, emails, cards, notes, everything she wrote that I saw for the 2+ years we were together was written like this, and she was late 20s at the time. It low-key bothered me whenever I would see this. I was ashamed that I felt this way because it seemed super petty, and I never said anything about it. I felt that mentioning it to her would only make her feel pressured to change something that she clearly enjoyed doing, and that was to her a sign of familiarity and affection. Towards the end of our relationship I got a more serious email from her and it was written in a normal, grown-up way. It was so damn refreshing to read that email. Even though we were about to break up. For other reasons, I felt for the first time that I was communicating with an adult. Choose with their mouth open. If they say Pacific when they mean specific. If they're overly sexual, to the point where almost everything they say is an innuendo or overall sexual in any way. I am broke. She annoyed the S out of me, actually the reason why I broke it off. I figured she just was like that because of nerves, but as time progressed, it just got worse. I felt like I had to apologize to everyone she spoke to because of how cringy she was. I was too embarrassed to introduce her to my family because of that. She was otherwise a really wonderful person, kind, caring, and generous. She just said things like haha you mangy sambai when joking around with me or my friends. I feel utterly horrible that I broke things off with her, but every time she spoke, it was like nails on a chalkboard to me. I didn't feel like it was fair to her to date someone who felt like that towards her. We have mutual friends and she still tells them that she's very confused as to why I broke things off with her. She's been single ever since. I feel like a DB even now writing this out. She had a hyper-realistic Joaquin Phoenix Joker tattoo on her thigh. It was well done and looked great, but I don't know. The tiles on his bathroom floor were too extravagant. Adding ketchup to tacos. I couldn't date a woman with my mom's name. Someone who talks incessantly. I dated a guy who be-ed and moaned that he didn't talk to his friends or his family because they didn't listen. He was very limited when speaking to them. They were DKS anyway, especially his dad. Anyway, I spent a lot of time with this guy, and had a lovely time for the most part, but after some months went by the talking became so burdensome I could barely stand it. I don't mean 5-minute monologues about a shitty day, either. I'm talking about 2 hours worth of just blather. Talking about nothing and everything. Frenetic. Frantic. Effing talking my ear off with no regard for me getting a word in edgewise. Absolutely exhausting. I still refer to him as the emotional vampire. He could suck the fun out of a room faster than anyone I've ever met. She was too aggressively normal. I booked economy class for a 1-hour flight. She cried because she never felt so cheap. Uses spaces instead of tabs. Looked like my annoying aunt. She wanted to homeschool any future kids. I was homeschooled. I couldn't do that to my kids. He had kinda messed up teeth and his last name was Tooth. If all they listen to is pop country. If they can't deal with spiders. As a huge arachnophobe, my worst nightmare is being with someone who is also terrified, resulting in two people who are both S-ing themselves at the same time. I deal with literally any other bugs, animals, or insects. As long as they can handle the spiders and not take the piss out of me / joke around me doing it. If I'm coming around the corner and they jump out and scare me, it's over. There's no coming back from that. I refuse to live in fear lol. She said, supposedly.